Good morning. In the earlier session, I had discussed on industrial revolution. Today, I will just recapitulate what I had discussed before and try to address something deeper into industrial revolution. As I told you in the last session that what are the regions, what were the background in which industrial revolution really emerged. As I told you before, and let us recapitulate now also that before we must have to analyze the era in which industrial revolution really took place. What were the reasons? What were the political and economic scenario in which industrial revolution took place? As I told you, and you also must have read in different texts that the primarily it originated, or the focal point where industrial revolution started was Britain, United Kingdom, UK. And hitherto the political situation which was there, that was predominantly existence of or prevalence of mercantile capitalism. Now let me clarify once again what was mercantile capitalism. Mercantile capitalism means it was predominant role of government in all the segment of the society. May that be running of the bureaucracy, whatever format that may be of bureaucracy, may that be regulation of economic activities, and also controlling social and political as well as geographical milieu. That was mercantile capitalism. Mercantile capitalism is also considered to be or called economic version of or economic counterpart of political absolutism. What is political absolutism? Strict and total control of political power over all economic activities of the people. But this system was not conducive to the society. People were restless and they were looking for a lurking change. And so you can say those were the reasons for emergence of industrial revolution. Now if I say industrial revolution, means there was a revolution in industries. Normally you say that there was a revolution, there is a political revolution, there was a French revolution, a Russian revolution, American War of Independence. So there are reasons for their specific emergence. If some revolution has occurred, there must be certain reasons. So the main reason was that hitherto or the existence practice of mercantile capitalism was not very conducive either for the benefit of the masses or for the larger economic interest of the country. And change happens only when there is wide and overall acceptance by the government as well as by the people, and that is wholeheartedly accepted by the society. So mercantile capitalism paved way for capitalism, rise of capitalism. So what is capitalism? It was also called European capitalism because primarily it happened in Britain and then it spread slowly and gradually to different parts of Europe. So European capitalism was, of course, if it is a capitalism, the main motive behind capitalism is there are entrepreneurs and their sole motive is interest, aggrandizement of self-interest. Their profit motive is the sole criteria. So if they are doing something and they are the recipient of maximum benefit, so that is called accrual of interest in the individual hands. When there are accrual of interest or the dividends are garnered by few individuals, that is called capitalism. So capitalism grew in Europe and primarily in Britain. That time it was also bolstered up by direct, overt or covert, direct or indirect support of many economists. Primarily and most notably was Adam Smith, who in his book Wealth of Nations clearly enunciated that the role of government has to be curtailed. Let economy be in the hands of individual, which was also given in a different context. It was also questioned by, it was given a different name by laissez-faire capitalism. Now let me explain what is laissez-faire capitalism. Laissez-faire capitalism, I have also discussed in slide configuration in the last lecture. Laissez-faire capitalism means leave me alone. Leave me alone. Laissez-faire is basically a French word in which the role of the government has to be minimal. And it was widely endorsed because this kind of capitalism was going to really fructify. So people took interest, whatever capital they had, so they started setting up their factories and situation really clicked, which led to emergence of industrial revolution. That time there was also a political as well as social desire for agrarian revolution, which was also called agriculture revolution. Agriculture was in a dilapidated stage. It was in a primordial outdated shape that needed a kind of bolstering up. People were fed up with their small holding of farms. So the small holding of farms gave way to acquisition of bigger farms by landlords, which in turn they converted the recipient of the benefits into setting up factories and industries. So all these factors cumulated resulted into a kind of economic ambience in which it was a conducive atmosphere where industrial revolution could have sparked off. And I told you in the last lecture also, there was trade triangle in the Atlantic, North Atlantic. What was that? That resources from North America and South America was brought to the producing countries, and the produced product where they exported to, they were supplied to African countries, and from African countries what they brought, there was a barter system, BARTER, barter system. In exchange for the products, the finished products, they brought slaves, and they were those slaves which were again transported back to North America and South America to be used in the plantation field, which could be well utilized for production of raw material, because for production of raw material like cotton seeds, agricultural produce, you require manpower. So manpower was easily available from the African continents. So that triangle formed. The raw material came from North America and South America. It came to Europe. Here it was the processing done. Final product were exported back to Africa, and in turn of the product they brought slaves from Africa, and those slaves were again rechanneled back to North and South America, who were utilized in the farms, agricultural farms for plantation, so that again raw material could be produced and procured from North America. So a kind of chain was created. Now all these factors were well bolstered up. These were all emboldened by emergence of imperialism. Now let me explain what are this imperialism. Imperialism is a word, it's a very derogatory word, but that was a prevalent mode of explanation of existing scenario of the society. That was called European imperialism. Primarily this was practiced by countries like Britain, France, Belgium, Germany, Portugal. So these countries, they have started annexing lands in different parts of the world, which most commonly we came to know as colonies. That was a different thing, that in order to acquire more and more land, they fought among themselves. But over a period of time, they were able to establish vast chunk of areas in form of colonies in different parts of the world. So, situation was very right, and in meantime, what happened, that agricultural revolution took place. Agricultural revolution took place means there was a tendency of the farmers to move from village to cities and settle down there, which suited the entrepreneurs located in cities. Now, this is by and large the explanation of industrial revolution. This is the gist explaining what is industrial revolution. But the main thing is, what is so significant about it that it is called industrial revolution. So industrial revolution is made up of two words, industrial and revolution. Now I would add third word, the role of inventions and innovations, which really sparked, ignited into a process or a phenomena which was then called industrial revolution. I have jotted down few points which would be called scientific discoveries or inventions which really helped make industrial revolution a success, a grand success. Now, what are these things? Those days, what was the requirement of the people? The traditional method was no more in vogue, because the traditional method was very sluggish, very slow and non-productive. So the first invention which really expedited productions on a commercial level was spinning jenny. S-P-I-N-N-I-N-G, spinning jenny. It was the production of yarn, dhaga, on a large scale. And once spinning jenny was invented, this also catapulted or led to invention of power looms. As a result, what happened? Spinning jenny expedited the production on a huge scale. Yarn was produced on a massive scale, and which fed that power loom. So the production of clothing was exponentially increased. Mind you, imperialistic tendencies had already expanded the territorial frontiers of their countries. So that was a time when massive production of clothes were there. So all the colonies which were annexed and occupied by these Britishers or these European countries, they started looking for market, supplying cheap finished product to the colonies and garnering lot of benefits out of it. So these are the real beginning of the fruits of industrial revolution. So you can say the invention of spinning jenny was one of the vital instrument which ignited the industrial revolution. Of course, once I use the word spinning jenny, then power loom comes as a natural corollary to it. The second word, steam engine. Now you must have seen that period, the most commonly practiced mode of locomotion was through water. But once steam engine, this is the second invention and innovation of the time. Once a steam engine was invented, it really ignited, it really revolutionized the process of internal transportation, both inside the producing countries as well as in the colonies, where the expansionist design of European imperialism was at its peak. For instance, the Britishers, they produce cloth with the help of their spinning jenny and power loom. Those finished product, notably those sterling and all those synthetic products those days, and our famous cotton which was there from the centuries we had produced in India, those were killed, those were stopped, those were brutally suppressed, and raw material from India was supplied to England and finished product came from England. So we were forced to purchase their products. So their profit making process expanded manifold, and the indigenous production, which was, of course, there was no power loom, it was all hand operated. The system of handicrafts or any of the processes involved by agrarian process was very slow, because these were not mechanized. What Britishers did, what Europeans did, they mechanized. When we talk of industrial revolution in context with India, we have to primarily deal with British example, because we were colony of Britishers in most part of the country, except for few areas where French had also colonized few pockets of Indian territories. So now see, steam engine. How steam engine is very important. These Britishers, they set up railway lines, railway track, and steam engines invented by James Watt was very fruitful for them. They connected steam engine locomotion from all the port areas to the hinterland, to the market areas, and from the areas from where they could collect what is called raw material, like for instance Murshidabad, different areas where the cotton production is maximum. So this also opened a trade routes. Invention of the steam engine, that also opened the trade routes, and also that time there was a predominance availability of coal. So the steam engine, which was initially invented, that was to take out water from the coal fields and dig out coal from the mines, because all the industries and the factories which was set up, that was run on steam engine principle. So it has a dual purpose: taking out water from the coal fields, extracting coal from the mines, as well as looking for transportation, internal transportation, both inside the producing countries as well as in the colonies where they had annexed under the principle of European imperialism. Now let us come to power machines. Once these were in abundant quantities, so the rule of Singer, Isaac Singer, he modified to the existing version of sewing machine, and that was very useful, very handy for them. They started sewing different clothes and serving to the people, though the labor class, the working class. That created a sense of fashion in them. Those coming from the villages to the cities. That kind of culture is still existent in our country. You may be finding that people are not interested in working in villages, but they find their ultimate resolute to satisfaction in cities like Kolkata, Kanpur, Mumbai and Delhi. This is nothing but fallout of industrial revolution. And I can say that industrial revolution is still going on. Because the primary sector, that is agrarian sector, is no more profitable. It is considered to be just a source of sustenance. So what is great about Industrial Revolution, which revolutionized the whole process of thinking? Yes, there is something great about it, that the psyche, the mind thinking process has been changed. With the introduction of sewing machine, then I am talking about the 17th century and 18th century and 19th century. With the introduction of sewing machines, the very basis of their clothing and sense of dressing changed. Cheap available of finished products in the cities, that entailed massive exodus of peasants from the farming land, that is from villages, to the cities. And that was also a great revolution that brought maximum millions of people from the farmland to the cities to work in the factories. And in this context, there was a great revolutionary change by the invention of telegraph. What was the telegraph? By connecting few dots, this was one of the greatest inventions and innovations of the time. The precise time was that the first telegraph was between UK and US in 1866. It started in 1866, and soon after, in 1876, it was Graham Bell who invented telephone. Just imagine. Situation was highly conducive for industries were booming, and only thing which was lacking was effective communication. As we say that knowledge is power, and communication converts power into fire. So everything was really revolutionized. Production was booming. It was at its highest pace. People were looking for some fashionable clothing which was possible with spinning jenny and power loom. But also, while migrating from rural areas to the cities, they also felt the need of communication. It was provided by telegraph, invention of telegraph, and in telegraph in 1866, and invention of telephone by Graham Bell in 1876. The circuit was complete. So, amid the process of revolution, lots of psychological and societal satisfaction was also meted out. Now, there were a lot of hindrances also, like you are setting that while you are extracting coal, you have to have many processes, many difficulties. So that time there was invention of dynamite. Dynamite also facilitated the expansion and growth of, or smooth conduct of, industrial revolution. Now, one thing was lacking. And what was that? There was no electricity. So as you know, necessity is the mother of invention. You must have heard. So it was that time that incandescent light bulb by none other than Thomas Edison was invented in the year 1879. Illuminated the city life, made working life very comfortable, and it made glowing everywhere. So not only that city life was illuminated, the living condition of the people became very comfortable. The shift and the working hours, that really became very cozy and comfortable. And this is a byproduct or aftermath of this invention, that we are having the fruits in form of refrigerators, TV, and all those things which we are enjoying today, had there been no industrial revolution, we won't have dreamt of these things today. So thanks to industrial revolution that we are having all those things which we are enjoying today. Also, there was massive growth of agricultural revolution that time. There were two basic inventions. One was by Jethro Tull, the machine which was for the seed drill, by which the crops could be planted in a straight line. So that was very easy to maneuver for sowing as well as for reaping. And it was very fast and productivity was on a larger scale. So once we discuss about industrial revolution, we have to cover all the facets of industrial revolution. Initially I gave you what was the genesis of industrial revolution. Let me remind you once again. To start with, mercantile capitalism, then laissez-faire capitalism, then European imperialism, rise of agriculture revolution, role of Adam Smith, and then the most important factors which led to or which made this so-called industrial revolution successful. When I use the word industrial revolution, so industry is made up of machines. So there were few machines which really ignited, which really revolutionized not only the mental countenance but industrial consumption. These inventions really ignited the process of industrial revolution. This is for the day. There would be 2 or 3 more lectures on this topic so that it would be amply clear. Once you listen this chapter thoroughly, I don't think it will be very difficult for you to make out all the points. Very succinctly you will remember, and it will be very easy for you to jot down anywhere, anytime, and in any fashion you feel like. Thank you very much.